In case you hadn't heard, last week, Mish and I had to take Nicholas to the emergency room because he had decided to get a curtain hook lodged in his throat. I'm not going to get into that story here. You can read all about it on my wife's site at blogfairy.jcortez.com. But in light of that event, I thought I might share with you another trip to the emergency room that Mish and I had to take on October 20th, 2010. This time starring Jacob. So to get into this story, first you have to understand what our old drop-off routine was at the Medco daycare.
On mornings that I would open at 9 West, Jay and I would carpool to New Jersey together. We would take Jacob to daycare, and then I would drop Jamie off at his door, and then I would go to work myself.
So we were following the routine as normal, except for one minor thing. That particular day, Jacob was overly excited to show us some kind of size chart that all of his classmates were measuring themselves against. Now, to say Jacob is a high-energy child is a bit of an understatement. Next to the term bouncing off the walls in the dictionary is a picture of Jacob. And if you think I'm exaggerating, the following clip clearly illustrates my point. So we had our backs turned to Jacob while putting his belongings away in his cubby, and he was getting a little restless, waiting for us to turn around and see the size chart he wants to show us. So off he scoots by himself to the opposite side of the room, and smack, bang, crash is all we hear.
Jacob had slammed his head into the side of a wooden oven. And normally with Jacob, you're never sure if he's actually hurt. He crashes into doors and furniture on a daily basis. Not daily, minute by minute basis.
Yep, and I'm the kind of guy who just says, walk it off, walk it off. But as the second turns into a minute, and he's still not getting up, I decide to go over and check on him.
And on this particular day, I was the calm one. I was calm, I was collected, I knew exactly what to do once Jamie picked up Jacob.
Of course you were all calm and collected. You didn't see the huge gash in his head that was so deep, I think I saw his skull.
So once Jamie picked up Jacob, I said immediately, "All right, boys, we're going to the emergency room. I think we need stitches." We quickly grabbed Jacob and we're off to the hospital. And this time, I drove.
You know where the hospital is, I don't. In case of emergencies, she should drive, even if she's pregnant. While Mish is driving, I stay in the back with Jacob to keep him company and also to keep pressure on his wound with some paper towel and ice that I'd gotten from the daycare before we left. We arrive at the hospital and are quickly shown to a room.
And the funny part is that we were not the only family there that needed stitches. There was another little boy that came right after us who got bitten by his pet bird. So the doctor comes in and checks Jacob and confirms that he needs stitches. And he asks us if we want him to do it or do we want a plastic surgeon to do it. We have no idea. So I quickly called my mother. And she said, "Of course you want a plastic surgeon to do it."
That way that would minimize the scarring that he would have in the long term. Before the surgery begins, we have to all take our proper places.
I am no longer the calm parent. They're about to do surgery on my baby, and I take my place on a chair in the hallway because I am 9.5 months pregnant.
In order to go through with the stitching procedure, Jacob had to stay perfectly still, and that could be quite an impossible task for someone who is so bouncy and hyperactive. He was going to need to be strapped down so that he could not move his arms, legs, or body. But I'm sure you're asking, how did we get him to do that? We didn't, but a clever nurse did. His idea was to get Jacob excited about putting on this restraining suit by telling him it was a cape that would turn him into a superhero. He chose Batman, and he was quickly strapped into place before he realized what was really going on. Meanwhile, I stay in the room. I have my hand on Jacob's leg, and in my other hand, I'm holding his security blanket, Buddy, here, to keep him calm and brave and strong during the whole procedure.
Jacob got 12 stitches. 12. And he was super brave, and he didn't cry at all. Mommy did. A lot.
And as a reward, and because it was already about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we went to his favorite place to eat, Wendy's.
We went to Wendy's because he's able to eat the hamburger there because there's no sesame seeds on the bun. Burger King, I hope you're listening. No sesame seeds on the bun.
And immediately after lunch, we went to Toys R Us to give our brave little boy his choice of a toy. He chose the evil Dr. Porkchop ship from Toy Story 2.
We came home and used that unexpected day off as an excuse to paint pumpkins.
Looks like 3 pumpkin heads were carved that day.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Headaches and Euphoria. Please tune in next week. And by the way, Nikki is doing just fine after last week's trip to the emergency room.